Self-help groups, changing business models. I am Dr. Badrinath, MN, from the Imperial Institute of Advanced Management, MBA program under the Bangalore University. So the contents, we would have the introduction, statement of problem, research methodology, findings and discussion. Self-help groups is a unit of about 10 to 15 members, mostly on a voluntary basis. They come together, and these people are normally from the socially, economically marginalized section of the society, and the purpose of them coming together is to bring about changes in their lives and make it better. So when it comes to India, the self-help groups are largely known as women self-help groups, as this model has been more or less adopted by women than men. And again, a point to be noted here is that most of these women have not been literate, and almost we could say about 60-70% of the women have not even crossed their primary education. Statement of the problem is that it's been about 3 decades since the self-help group movement has become a mainstay in the business area, in the business domain. And since then, numerous changes have happened, and the self-help group model, which runs more or less on an informal mode, has been trying to stay lively and relevant. Here the self-help groups for the first 2 decades, since 1990 to the later part of 2010, has been purely constituted and run on the economic lines, meaning for the purpose of credit support, financial help, and conducting of business. But the objectives are not just financial alone, but have more to do with the social empowerment, cultural empowerment, and also environmental empowerment. So in the last few years, particularly from 2015, there has been the digitization, and digital economy has become is becoming a main force. And therefore, this paper is trying to attempt to list those factors or the changes that might possibly affect the role of self-help groups and the very business model that they are based out of. So the methodology that we adopted here is that we went through the journal papers, websites consulted, industry reports and consortium reports since 2016. And again, systematic literature review was carried out through the various listings in the Scopus, EBSCO, ProQuest indexed journals and others. Also, we have made attempt to classify and categorize the literature and find the areas, thrust areas, where this literature has been based out of or is pointing to us. So, according to the study, the categorization, classification of the review literature, we found that there were 6 important thrust areas out of the 83 papers that we reviewed. 6 important thrust areas have emerged. The first thrust area is the women empowerment issues, and this has been one of the areas that was concentrated in the academic fraternity when discussing on self-help groups right from 1990 onwards, from the day NABARD and other agencies' intervention, this process of women empowerment has been looked at from various perspectives, and indexing of empowerment has been done. The extent of empowerment has been done, and weightages provided to various factors that affect a women empowerment has also been published. Many studies, extant literature have published and still again since 2016 till today, most of the articles in the 83 that we reviewed, that's exactly about 34 articles, journal papers, have more or less had the thrust area objective of this women empowerment as its core theme. Next to the women empowerment is the financial inclusion and intermediation. As discussed earlier in this presentation, most of the self-help groups have been formed for purely bringing help from the agencies, particularly the banks and the non-banking financial corporations and government schemes, in the form of money, in the form of credit lines, in the form of credit linkages, and leading to economic empowerment. So these groups want to do a business, but they don't have any collateral to show to the bank and gain and get the money they want. They can't produce any collateral. They don't have any property to mortgage. So these people are largely illiterate and poor, and from the economically marginalized sections of the society, and thus they form together these groups, and what they need is a credit support. The power of credit must be handed over to them in order to bring changes to their lives, and they can do it by themselves. But for the money, they have all other things that are required to make them the micro entrepreneurs. Then comes the economic empowerment, which is very close to the financial inclusion intermediation. There were 13 papers that focused on the economic empowerment. Subsequent to that was the decision making. Largely, most of the self-help groups, there has been this choices, decisions particularly about the market linkages, the way how they take the products from the point of production to the point of sale, and how are they deciding the models that they have to work out in order to sustain. So more or less these decision making papers are all related to the sustainability issues of the self-help group and its members. Next comes the training and development. Training and development, of course, during the early 1999, 98, it was a key issue where the self-help group members found support through training for producing various products that attracted the market space, which means they could make products that were saleable. So nowadays the papers are not so much concentrating on it, but might improve, because today we are having new concepts that are finding space in the self-help groups literature, which is the digitization, digital economy. Most of the self-help groups are now trying to procure, trying to produce and sell through the digital medium, which could be an app, which could be a website, which could be a federation-based integrated e-commerce portal, and many other forms of disbursement of their products they are exploring. So those papers are now becoming the most important aspect of how the technology is going to help the self-help groups to define their the way how they are conducting business for the next decade. So we have come to the last slide. It's a discussion. Most of the studies since 2016 are on the topic of women empowerment, as we could make out from the very findings itself. So as I have already discussed, it's been the mainstay for so many years, almost 3 decades. That's been the mainstay, women empowerment. There has been a lot of deprivation when it comes to the positions of women. The power and politics that has always been stifling their progress is now challenged in the last 30 years, and particularly the women at the grassroots level, the disempowered women are now finding their voice in the mainstream space. So the financial inclusion, intermediation, microfinance and credit are other domains or the areas within the self-help group literature where the intellectual capital is now flowing. Then training and development, as discussed, is now losing its ground, particularly among the academic fraternity. Not sure if the trainings are happening on the digital medium, webinars and other things which have not been listed, and perhaps a study could also be done on whether the digital literacy levels of the self-help groups has found any improvement in the last 3 years, could also be one of the scope or for future research. Then comes the gradual concentration of self-help groups, their operations and digitization. So government has also brought about portals, the GEMS portal and other, in order to connect the self-help groups to the suppliers, in order to connect them to their vendors and in order to connect them to their customers, and provide a one-stop solution for their market-based and market linkage problems. So that is one of the green areas or the key area that is coming up in the recent times. So we must take note of the way how self-help groups and the digitization and digital economy is going to be helpful to them and integrated in their day-to-day processes and make them successful, stay relevant and help themselves. So we have come to the end of the paper, this paper. Right. Okay. Thank you.